Hello, this is Ansel, back with a new show called the Rockstar Review Show. This is a vlog where each week I'm going to I'm going to pick a couple of albums and I'm going to talk about them. I run the Rambling Man's Reviews blog, which usually looks at the best in unsigned bands, but I also like to review and cover classic rock bands as well. And I've also conducted several interviews with some notable musicians such as Gus G and Raven, to name but a few. And I also like to cover news stories, the latest stories from the world of rock and metal. So today I'm going to look at brand new albums by the record label Frontiers Music SRL. These are two albums that are due out tomorrow, Friday, the April 12th, as of recording. These are going to be new albums from Blue Oyster Cult and King Zebra. Now for me, Frontiers Music SRL are an Italian-based record label, and they have gone through some considerable changes over the last year, I've noticed. It was usually run by a guy, a president, who just picked session musicians from his favourite bands and just put them in randomly into one band, and they just sang AOR stuff, melodic rock. For me, I found it quite boring, to be honest with you. It wasn't something that really appealed to me, but I've noticed in the last year how they've changed now. They have started to sign more established bands. Your bands like Blue Oyster Cult, but also up and coming bands such as King Zebra and The Treatment. For me, this excites me and makes me more wanting to listen to more of their stuff when it comes out. And King Zebra are a band, well, an up-and-coming band that I have been quite interested in the last few years. Their new album, Between the Shadows, which I think is their third album, is very different to their usual stuff. Usually they just did sort of very hard rock, very lightweight, sort of melodic hard rock. But now they've moved more into the 80s based style of things, which I've noticed bands like Crazy Licks doing. And Between the Shadows is no different. The band themselves were formed in 2019, and well, they started off with an EP which won them quite a lot of applause. It's as well as a lot of hits on Spotify. This led them to having appearances at festivals like Rock the Ring, Rock of Ages, and show stages with bands that I like Leonard Skinner, Uriah Heep, and Rose Tattoo. For a new band, this is always an exciting opportunity because it's a chance for you to showcase your talents, your potential, and to get your name out there and to get noticed. Clearly, this worked because the band went into the studios in Sweden in 2020 to record their debut album, Survivors, under the guidance of producer Oscar Nielsen. The album itself featured the ex-Thunder Mother singer Guernica Mancini, and this is, I think, when I first really started to listen to the band and think that they had something there. This was part of Golden Rock Robot Records, which, and again, with that, they shared stages with, I think, Swedish bands like Crush Diet. Golden Robot Records being a record label that I always see as sort of a platform for these sort of bands before they sign on to a bigger label. Now, King Zebra is signed to Frontiers Records, which I think last year, and again, I've enlisted the help of Oscar Nielsen for this album. The album itself, though, features the former China vocalist Eric St. Eccles. I think he's newly joined. And I think that shows because his experience, it really helps on this album. Like I alluded to already, they have sort of an 80s sound, which I'm not quite understanding of why a lot of bands are going back to this sort of thing when it doesn't feel natural to me. But on this album, even though the band are from Zurich, Switzerland, it's a very American produced album, very American sounding, and this is characterized by the opening track Starlight, which is a very blistering track, very highly charged three-chord vocals, and incredible vocal performance over it. And the thing I like about the album, which, which surprises myself really, is that it's not only just how well produced it is, but how it's yeah it had it's for me it feels like it's a nod to the 80s. It's not exactly trying to replicate the 80s, and it has some very good tracks. They're not the best written tracks in the world, but at the same time, these are tracks that are just easy to listen to, and they're very rocking. And I think tracks that stand out for me are Starlight, Children of the Night, and Restless Revolution. They're very catchy choruses. I think that if they were to be played at a festival, you would surely remember them. There's the usual sort of ballady tracks you get on 80s albums with the keys, but a very good guitar performance, which surprised me. Some very good riffs, which you don't usually expect from bands uh, that era. And I think what surprises me mostly is the singing, is the able to just. I think the vocalist has charisma, and through his ability to sing these songs, he brings them to life, and he really makes each one feel like he's put some personality behind it, not just for him but for the rest of the band. And they're just 10 very enjoyable tracks. Like I said, some very good catchy tunes, and it's a very surprisingly good album. I didn't enjoy it at first, but after a few listens, I really got into it. So you can, well, like I said, that album Between the Shadows, which is out tomorrow, which will be available via all available streaming platforms, but not just that. I'm sure you'll be able to buy it in some retail outlet near you. I'm going to give the album 8 out of 10, and you can find out more information about the band via the social media accounts. You can find them on Instagram under King Zebra. You can find them on Facebook under kingzebra.band, and on Twitter, which is King Zebra Rocks. So the next album I'm going to look at is Blue Oyster Cult. Now this, when I first received this by my email, I was very excited. First of all, I didn't realise Blue Oyster Cult were on Frontiers Music, even though I did review their 50th anniversary live album last year, which was surprisingly very good. It's an album that it was something that covered their first 3 releases, which I've got at home, and I've fully they're one of my 3 favourite albums. They're albums that I don't ever want to leave out for my CD collection. You never want to, well, you never want to keep them on the shelf. You always want to put them in a CD player. So this is their new album, Ghost Stories, which is part of those 50 years celebration, and as part of the partnership with Frontiers Music, a way of really promoting the band and appealing to a new, younger, fresher audience, I imagine, is they've released, well, a collection of tracks from their heyday, from the 70s and the 80s, right, between the years of 1978 and 2016. These are tracks that were previously unreleased. Now you will get these with bands later in their career when they want to make a little bit of bucks. Is that you will find that they will release a lot of demos, a lot of live material, which is something Blue Oyster Cult's doing here. Now these tracks have been reimagined and are newly completed, um, and they've been considered musical treasures or lost gems. Now, like I said, they originally recorded between 78 and 83, except for one track, If I Felt, which came out in 2016. Now, some of these songs feature concert classics such as the MC5 cover, Kick Out the Jams. and some of the material just sessions that the bands were working on during their performances. George Geranius, the band's original audio engineer, and somebody that played a key part in the development and evolution of Blue Oyster Cult, helped put this together. They were all originally recorded on reel-to-reel analog tape. They were later transferred to digital audio, which is when the modern AI was brought in to demix and remix. They were produced by Steve Schneck and Richie Castellano. Now, the work in the studio was completed by Richie Castellano, along with remaining original members Eric Bloom and Donald Buck Damarosa. Albert Bouchard and Rick Downey appear on drums, with overdubs by Joe Bouchard. And the original line of members appear to create a musical journey that traverses decades. So, this is something that came from the visionary leadership of Serafino Peregrino. So, he's the Frontiers Music SOL head, which I mentioned before. Now, I listened to this originally and I weren't too keen on it. I thought it sounded outdated, to be truthful with you. But I had another listen, and I admit, I really enjoyed it for a best of. I think this is probably one of the better albums. I think it's an idea that I've not seen explored much, and to be truthful with you, I think it works. Because it shows Blue Oyster Cult in a different light. They're known for their influence on heavy metal, or proto-metal, but they've also can delve into hard rock as well as progressive rock. Really an all-round band. But on here, they explore different genres. So for me, this track, Late Night Street Fight, it doesn't sound like a typical Blue Oyster Cult song. It sounds like something that maybe blues artists from probably the 40s or something would do. It's a very fun, well, it's not fun, it's about fighting, but it's a fun track, very blues influenced. And this is something that you're going to find throughout the album on Cherry and So Supernatural. Very good 70s rock tracks, good riffs, good lyrics, good vocals, well produced. Again, very easy to listen to. There was some, like we mentioned before, covers. We Gotta Get Out This Place, which I think is better than the original. Again, they bring some kind of emotion to this, and they really make it sound like they wrote it themselves. And we've got a good soul song. We've got Soul Jive is probably a throwback to those kind of soul singers from those time periods I mentioned. But there's some songs that I think that a lot of the tracks are maybe influenced or maybe borrowed from original blues tracks such as Gunshot in the Dark and The Only Thing. And then I've noticed as the album goes along, it picks up. So we go through the 70s, then we go through the 80s. So we're touching on the soul, touching on the blues. Money Machine feels like a southern rock track, to be truthful with you. It's a very get up and go kind of track. And then we've got Don't Come Running to Me If I Fell, tracks that feel a bit more like sort of 80s, 90s tracks like David Bowie or funky stuff like the Kinks, maybe the Kinks or stuff like that. But overall, I admit that this was a surprising release. I fully enjoyed this one. Very well produced. So I have to put my hat off to AI, which I don't usually like. So again, this album is out tomorrow. You can probably again find this via available retail outlets and streaming platforms online. So if you are but for me, this is definitely one for Brewster Cult fans. I'm not quite sure it's something for somebody if you want to get into Brewster Cult. If you want to get into Brewster Cult, you're best to try and get their earlier albums, their best ones. But for fans like me, this is definitely an album I would suggest buying. Again, I want to give it 8 out of 10. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you fully enjoyed it, and you will go and give those albums a listen. You can find videos of the tracks online or on YouTube now. So until next time, keep on rocking.